The world watches with bated breath, not for signs of peace, but for signs of wheat. Supermarkets, once temples of abundance, now face dwindling shelves and anxious shoppers. The unthinkable is happening. A global food crisis is upon us. This is not a scene from a dystopian novel. It is our reality. The very foundation of our civilization, the ability to feed ourselves, is teetering on the brink. Multiple factors have converged, creating a perfect storm that threatens to engulf us all. The warning signs have been flashing for years, but now they blaze with alarming intensity. The Russia-Ukraine war, a humanitarian tragedy in its own right, has exposed the fragility of global food systems. Supply chains, already strained by the pandemic, are buckling under the pressure. Fertilizer shortages, climate change, and soaring energy prices add fuel to the fire, pushing us closer to the precipice. The time for complacency is over. The time for action is now. This is not merely a crisis of supply and demand. It is a crisis of conscience. We must confront the uncomfortable truth. Our current food systems are unsustainable, inequitable, and woefully unprepared for the challenges ahead. The breadbasket of Europe lies in ruins. The Russia-Ukraine war, a conflict that has shattered lives and upended global politics, has also dealt a devastating blow to global food security. Ukraine, once a major exporter of wheat, corn, and sunflower oil, is now struggling to feed its own people, let alone the millions who depend on its exports. Russia, too, a key player in the global fertilizer market, has seen its exports dwindle due to sanctions and disruptions. The impact is being felt far beyond the battlefields, sending shockwaves through global food markets. The war has exposed a dangerous truth. Our food systems are deeply interconnected, and disruptions in one part of the world can have ripple effects that are felt globally. The conflict has also highlighted the folly of relying on a handful of countries for essential food supplies. This is not just a war on Ukraine, it is a war on the world's most vulnerable populations. Countries in the global south, already grappling with poverty, conflict, and climate change, are facing the brunt of this crisis. The specter of famine looms large, a stark reminder of the human cost of this senseless conflict. To understand the gravity of the fertilizer shortage, one must first understand the essential role these elements play in modern agriculture. Nitrogen, potash, and phosphorus, often referred to as the big three nutrients, are the building blocks of plant growth. Nitrogen, derived from natural gas, is crucial for leaf development and chlorophyll production. Potash, mined from underground deposits, enhances root growth, drought resistance, and overall plant health. Phosphorus, also mined, plays a vital role in energy transfer, seed formation, and root development. These nutrients are not naturally present in the soil in sufficient quantities to sustain high-yielding agriculture. Hence, the reliance on synthetic fertilizers, which have become indispensable to modern farming practices. The current shortage of these vital nutrients is akin to a carpenter facing a shortage of wood or a builder running out of cement. The consequences are dire reduced yields, lower crop quality, and ultimately, less food to go around. This shortage, coupled with soaring energy prices, has created a perfect storm for farmers, pushing many to the brink. The global food supply chain is a marvel of modern logistics, a complex web of interconnected networks that span continents and oceans. Yet this intricate system, like a chain, is only as strong as its weakest link. And in recent years, those links have been breaking down with alarming frequency. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed the vulnerability of these just-in-time supply chains, as lockdowns and border closures led to delays, shortages, and price spikes. The war in Ukraine has further exacerbated these disruptions, throwing the entire system into disarray. Shipping containers, once readily available, are now in short supply, stranded in ports or caught in the crossfire. Truck drivers, facing rising fuel costs and pandemic-related restrictions, are in short supply, leading to delays in transporting goods from farms to processing plants to supermarkets. The result: empty shelves, rotting produce, and soaring food prices. The smooth functioning of the global food system, once taken for granted, can no longer be assumed. The cracks in the system are widening, threatening to become chasms. When weather wages war. As if the geopolitical and economic turmoil weren't enough, Mother Nature has joined the fray, unleashing a barrage of extreme weather events that further threaten global food security. Climate change, once a distant threat, has become an undeniable reality, impacting crop yields and disrupting agricultural practices worldwide. From the American Midwest to the Indian subcontinent, farmers are facing the brunt of climate change. Droughts are becoming more frequent and severe, scorching crops and depleting water resources. Floods are inundating farmlands, washing away precious topsoil and destroying entire harvests. Heat waves are pushing temperatures to unprecedented levels, wilting crops and stressing livestock. Pests and diseases, once confined to certain regions, are spreading to new areas, decimating crops and threatening livelihoods. The price we pay. For consumers in wealthy nations, the global food crisis manifests as rising grocery bills and a shrinking selection of their favorite foods. But for millions in the developing world, it is a matter of life and death. Food prices, already on the rise before the pandemic, have skyrocketed to record highs, pushing millions into poverty and hunger. The UN Food and Agriculture Organization's Food Price Index, a measure of the monthly change in international prices of a basket of food commodities, has reached levels not seen since the 2007 to 2008 food crisis. The cost of wheat, a staple food for billions, has more than doubled in some regions. The impact on the most vulnerable is particularly alarming. According to the World Food Program, an estimated 828 million people go to bed hungry every night, a number that has been steadily rising in recent years. The current crisis threatens to push millions more into food insecurity, with potentially devastating consequences. Empty plates, empty promises. The global food crisis is not merely a crisis of supply and demand, it is a crisis of justice. It is a stark reminder of the deep inequalities that permeate our food systems, where millions go hungry while others enjoy an abundance of food. It is a crisis fueled by conflict, greed, and short-sighted policies. It is a crisis that demands our attention, our compassion, and most importantly, our action. We cannot afford to stand idly by as millions face the specter of hunger. We cannot continue to rely on a system that is so clearly broken. The time for empty promises and half-hearted measures is over. Seeds of resilience. In the face of this unprecedented crisis, a glimmer of hope emerges. Communities around the world are coming together, not to despair, but to find solutions. They are rediscovering the importance of local food systems, of growing their own food, and of supporting their local farmers. From community gardens sprouting up in urban areas to seed banks preserving heirloom varieties, a quiet revolution is taking place. People are realizing that food security is not just about having enough food, it's about having control over how that food is produced, distributed, and consumed. This is not a return to a romanticized past, but a recognition that our food systems need to be more resilient, more equitable, and more attuned to the challenges of the 21st century. The global food crisis is a wake-up call, a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of our world and the fragility of the systems we rely upon. But it is also an opportunity to build back better, to create a more just and sustainable food system for all. This requires a fundamental shift in our thinking and our actions. We must move away from industrial agriculture, with its reliance on monocultures, chemical inputs, and long-distance transportation. We must embrace agroecological practices that work with nature, not against it. We must support small-scale farmers who are the backbone of our food systems and the stewards of our land. We must reduce food waste, which accounts for a staggering 1/3 of all food produced globally. The future of our food depends on the choices we make today. Let us choose wisely. Let us choose to act. Let us choose to build a food system that nourishes us all.